In today's video, I brought on 40 of our clients and I consulted them live for over an hour and a half. We went over specific topics such as skepticism, such as the trust recession that we currently live in. How do you overcome that being a new company, and how do you get people to sign up for your highest paid services and then basically trying to hand their credit cards over to you instead of you feeling like you have to chase anyone, right? So we go very, very deep into the psychology of what it takes to build an ecosystem of marketing, of sales, to be able to convert high paying clients into these retainers. And how do you have a great service delivery for your clients? So we cover that topic specifically, but some of our clients also asked us, general questions about their agencies. And some of these clients specifically are, some of them are doing about $5,000 a month. Others are doing 20, 30, 50. And some of our top clients are even doing $300,000 to $400,000 per month. So you'll be able to see, a little bit of what they need help with, where they're currently at, some of their struggles, and see how we address those concerns and see the action plan of what we devise for them. So without further ado, let's get right into the training. Super pumped, super excited to be on this call here today. Wanted to bring you guys something very special that not only is it something that works really, really well, but it's also something that I feel like most people don't teach in the industry. There isn't many resources when it comes along to this, and it's hyper effective specifically for you guys of where you're currently probably around at, right? So you probably have your digital marketing agency up. You may have a couple leads here and there. You may have some sales calls booked in, but it's like, how do we get these people to actually convert into money, right? So that is going to be what the subject of today's topic is going to be. Let's address the elephant in the room, right? Currently, right now in the marketplace, there is a huge skepticism. There's a huge trust factor issue that we have, right? And you guys will start noticing that it's not only about generating a lead or two. It's not only about generating calls anymore, but it's about leading people to the next step possible. Just because someone becomes a lead, right? And a lead is an opt-in, right? Name, number, email, does not mean that they're going to magically just fill out your application. It does not mean that they're actually going to book in a call. It does not mean that they're actually going to show up to the call. And it does not mean that they're going to come up with their credit card and just hand you those numbers, those magical numbers, right? It's not that simple, right? So we need to understand that that's the world that we live in. And the reason for that is because there's so many different digital marketing agencies out there that these people unfortunately have been burned by. That's just the reality of it, right? It seems like today everyone and their grandma has a digital marketing agency, right? You just have a website, and now people are calling themselves, oh, I'm a company owner, I'm a company CEO, I can do marketing for you. Well, it's not that simple, right? You have to be really good if you really want to get the results for your clients possible. But 90% of people, other, your so-called competitors, they're not delivering the client success that they need to. They're not giving the results, the desired outcome that the clients really need. And a lot of times they're not even offering an onboarding call. Literally people paying 10, 15, 20, 30 grand, they don't even get like an onboarding call, right? We see that happen so many times. And what that does is to the market, it just destroys the market, because now people are like, last time, it's kind of like a bad relationship, right? We've probably all had one. It's like, you sometimes may bring those things that those habits and those things that you learn, into the next relationship. It's the same concept where people, when they hire an agency in the past, they're just burned. They're like, oh, well, this could happen or that could happen. And they're just like, they're coming to you with so many biases and so much, their guard is just really, really high. So the question is, how do we penetrate that in a way where it is, number one, ethical, and number two is, like, most importantly, these clients, they want to come to you instead of you chasing them, right? Because the worst thing is, you're trying to just chase down clients. You're trying to call people and like just chase them. There's a big difference between chasing and pursuing. I'm all for pursuing. As you guys see, like, as we kind of teach in the curriculum and stuff, we will pursue a client. If they raise their hand and they wanted our services, which in this case is, if they see an ad of ours or if they respond to a message on LinkedIn, we see that as them raising their hands. And we feel like it is our duty and it is our responsibility to show up for this specific client because they need what we have, right? So that there's a difference between that, us pursuing them versus us chasing them. Never ever chase any client. Like, that's the number one rule. The moment you do that, then what you're doing is you're just competing for the lowest price possible, right? You don't ever want to be in a place where when you have a conversation with someone, right? A sales conversation or whatever you want to call it, triage. If they start to compare you with anyone, you've already screwed up, right? The idea is to make you guys appear unique, more irresistible, better than anything that they have ever heard or seen before in their lives, right? And we can actually achieve that through proper market research, through proper understanding what keeps the audience awake at night. What is like their desires? What are their fears, right? That's why we have you guys do a lot of those worksheets, which is now you can see of how important it is, because that is the base, like that's kind of like the building blocks of what your whole business is going to be around. So never skip that, by the way. Like, if just CSMs, you guys can let me know if anyone kind of skipped that. But please, as clients, just make sure you guys go through that competitor research, do the foundational groundwork, because everything else just becomes a lot easier. Your marketing becomes easier, not only easier, but cheaper, right? Your sales conversations become easier because they're like, people will show up. Not only do they want, their desire and motivation factor is to show up, but also they're intrigued and they're a little curious, like, what is this offer about? I've never seen anything like this before. And what does that do? Right? It positions you as the top shelf choice. It positions you that you are unlike anyone else that's out there. And chances are, if someone's hopping on a call with you, they're not only on a call with you, they're on a call with 5, 6, 7 other different agencies. So you're competing indirectly, right? And the reason why I specifically say indirectly is because if you do the proper work, you are one of one and you're unique and you don't have no competition, right, in the marketplace. But they're hopping on other calls as well. And in their mind, they're just looking for whatever's quickest, whatever's the easiest, fastest, and cheapest way that's out there. 9 times out of 10, your so-called competitors, they are nowhere near, if you do the things properly, they're nowhere near what you're able to offer them, right? We've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. The clients who really go all out in this phase specifically, they just put themselves in that category, in that box, that they just have so much value and so much authority that clients are the ones asking for, hey, how do I work with you? That's what we want to do. Does that make sense, guys? And, I feel like a lot of times where people, business owners, even some pretty successful, 7-figure business owners, they kind of think marketing by itself, sales by itself, client fulfillment by itself. And to us, it's like, no, it's all one, right? It's an ecosystem, right? It's kind of like this. If you take away one animal in the animal species that we live, right? Like if you take away the ants, for example, or the bees, well, that will have global impact, right? Even though technically it's just the bees are gone, but we have every single other animal. Well, no, it's an ecosystem. Every single plant, there's all these ecosystems that, that we have in nature that, they kind of like complement each other. It's the same concept here, right? The worst thing that we can do is kind of like think that marketing is by itself, sales is by itself. It's absolutely not. Sales is just an extension of marketing. That's it. Right? So if we start to think like, okay, we are marketers, how do we continue that when someone becomes a lead, right? And again, why would someone even become a lead? Why would someone even click your ad or, respond to your LinkedIn message? It's again, if you position yourself properly. Now, once they become an opt-in, right? An opt-in is name, number, email, or they fill out an application, or they book in a call. The whole goal of this, from top to bottom, it's kind of like you're carrying people on your back. It's kind of like you're a World War II medic. Being an entrepreneur in the online business world is literally, you're just like a World War II medic. So you're kind of carrying people. So if the people who become opt-ins, they're not necessarily going to fill out an application. So your only goal is to make sure that they actually fill out their application. Once they fill out the application, your next goal is to make sure that they actually book in a call with you, right? So all the verbiage that is on the landing pages, if you have any specific videos or everything that you have there, its only purpose is to get them to do the next action. That's the only purpose of it. Even if we take a look at your ads, right? If you take a look at your ads, it's designed in a way, it's literally like read the first sentence, and the first sentence job is only to make sure that they read the second one, then they read the third one and the fourth one. So that is a whole perspective of, once you kind of understand that this is just the nature of this business, well, people need to be led, everything will just kind of change for you, right? So once someone books in a call, the goal is, kind of like what Nate mentioned, is indoctrination. But that's one piece of this, right? When I say indoctrination, it's like them understanding what you do, why you do it, how you do it, just a little bit of how you do it. You don't want to go too much into that because that's what they're going to pay you for, right? But it's like you want to indoctrinate them a little bit on your principles, on your methodologies, and your structure and how you operate your company. Because what that's going to do is, naturally, there's going to be a percentage of people, they're like, you know what? This is not my cup of tea. And to that I say, great, because you trust me, you don't want to work with the wrong people, right? We are all here. Like, we want to design this business for our success and for a good, we want to have a good life around this, right? We don't want problematic clients, even though, sometimes they'll kind of seep in. That's just part of the game. But you don't just want random people coming in. So if someone doesn't agree and understand, that this is kind of like your structure and, they don't want it, it's great. You're just saving your time. You're saving their time. We're just not, it's not made for everyone, right? But what it also does is it pulls the people into like towards you, the people who do resonate with you, the people who do agree with how you think, how your business is structured, what you're going to do for them. It's just going to really pull them in. And those, my friends, like they're going to be your dream clients, right? That's the people that you want. Now, that's the indoctrination part, right? And again, we'll go super specific into like, how do you actually indoctrinate people? The next thing is like, pre-educate, right? And you're somewhat pre-selling as well. So you're handling objections in advance, right? Think about it, right? On a sales call, the sales call only starts when the first objection happens. Like that's just the reality of it, right? So how do you, a lot of you guys have 9-to-5s, right? Like you guys maybe have, other, maybe even other businesses, or, this may not be your full-time thing. So how do you, as a company owner and CEO, leverage your time to the highest level possible, right? That is something that, all of us here, we have to be very thinking of, because we all only have the same 24 hours in a day. And on top of that, we also have the same enough, energies, like finite, right? It's not unlimited. We don't have 100% fuel all the time. No, towards the end of the day, it's maybe like 40%, 30%, right? So it's like, how do we put our time, resources, money, effort, energy, attention into the least amount to get the maximum results? At the end of the day, business is all about having the most amount of leverage that you possibly can, right? So this is where you pull the power away from sales and put it to marketing. And there's a big bias, right? In, agency owners, even ourselves included, when we first started, was like, oh, we'll just get the lead and just throw it to the sales team and just have them figure it out. In theory, okay, you're right. But is it beneficial for everyone? Is it beneficial for you as a company owner? Is it beneficial for the client, right? What if the lead is just like broke and, they're not good fits, but they still show up? So you just wasted their time. You wasted the sales rep time. You wasted your time. You're wasting your ad dollars, which is very precious, right? Especially what you do is if you bring enough bad quality people coming in through the algorithm, well, then Facebook is just going to naturally optimize for those people, because Facebook doesn't know who a good quality lead is or who a bad quality lead is. Does that make sense? So it's like, we need to understand that and take the power away into us as a company owner and CEO. It is my job, it is my responsibility to give everyone that I have, all my team members, the best processes, systems, and procedures that I possibly can give them. And this is where we take the power away from the sales team to the marketing, right? So whatever the problems someone is going to have on the sales call, we want to put that towards the marketing side, right? So we go a little bit into what do we do for these people? What our unique mechanism is, right? Now you can see like all these things are kind of coming together, where we help you guys from the worksheets define your unique mechanism. What is unique about your business, right? What is that USP as well? So we take that and we expand on that in the marketing, right? So we could just make a quick video. Like, this is what we do. This is what our methodology is. And by the way, I've broken down this video like word for word, by the way. I think it's like, it could be 30 minutes to an hour. If you're really strapped on time, it could be like 10 minutes, but just make something, right? Like just have something there. You just have like a little filter and a little, gate towards your sales reps time, as well as, your algorithm, and you want to make sure the right people are coming in, right? So pre-educate people on what it is, what you do, just a little bit into how, right? The how specifically is basically just going to be on the sales call, right? That's what, we're going to talk a little bit more about, but it's pre-educating, pre-indoctrinating, and pre-selling people as much as we possibly can. And one thing that I'll say is kind of like a common mistake that most people make. And when I say common mistake, I mean, like we've made every single mistake ourselves, right? So I'm not putting anyone under the bus. I'm saying this was what we did ourselves as well, is where you'll want to naturally just sell in a way where you're like, oh, my agency can do this and this and this. Nobody cares about Facebook ads. That's the reality of it. Nobody cares about email marketing. They don't care about the services. Because the moment you bring up like, oh, we do these services, well, then now naturally in their brains are like, oh, who's the cheapest who can do the service? Well, they can just go on Fiverr, pay someone $50 for the same thing that you're charging $5,000 for. You're not selling a service, right? You're selling an outcome, right? A desired outcome that someone wants to get to, right? So think of it like this: escape, arrival. What do they want to escape? What keeps them up at night? And this is the highest leverage activity that you can do. And this is the boring work. And again, whenever I launch a new business, I will take a few months just truly trying to be in the shoes of the clients. Like, what is keeping them up at night? What is the internal dialogue that they're having with themselves that they're not even sharing with their family? We know those conversations, right? No one talks about them, but I will. Right? Like at night, we all had that little voice in our head, like, am I good enough? All these limiting beliefs and all these things. And it's just normal. It's just part of the human experience, right? But no one calls it out. No one brings it to the table. If you can elicit that and you can make people feel like, number one, they need to also, another thing is there's a protection mechanism that we all have as human beings, right? We all want to feel like we're this perfect, amazing person, that we are, untouchable and all that. It's just a protection mechanism, right? It's just a bias that we all have. So if you go deep into this, you're able to break through that, and you're able to tell people like, hey, look, your life or your business, your restaurant, or, you can go as specific as whatever services or whatever niches that you guys are in, that you're struggling. Like, you need good marketing. You need to get out of this thing, right? Especially for service-based businesses, right? It's like a mom and pop shop running. They have no clue about business. They may be good at, for example, making a dish at a restaurant. They have no idea about how to run a business though. And their life is just hell. It's a nightmare. So if you can call out what their weaknesses are, and not in a bad way, but you just bring it out to the table, like, hey, are you kind of struggling with these things? Well, there's a world and there's a way that we can potentially help you with, that you don't have to worry about these things anymore, ever again, right? So it's like escape and arrival. So your whole marketing, sales, even client fulfillment, everything is not based on features like this specific thing or that specific thing, but it's like based on the whole experience of, you're right here, right? And you want to get here. So we need to bridge the gap. And that bridge is going to be what your offer is. The bridge needs to be as streamlined as possible. The quickest, fastest, most efficient, cheapest option that they can possibly get to, right? And when I say cheapest, I don't mean like you're competing with Fiverr people. If someone has $100,000 problem, they will easily pay you $10K a month for it. 100%. No problem with that, right? But the moment you go into like selling services, you're just competing for the bottom of the barrel. Let's get a little bit into some of like the tactics and strategies and like, the structures behind how we do the things that we do. So number one, when someone actually becomes a lead, we need to understand, again, attention is the new oil, right? Oil is like, supposed to be very, very valuable and stuff. Attention nowadays is super, super key, because like people have TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, they have all these things, and they have their family, they have their job, they have all these, everything, so many things happening. Per day, we see about 4,000 ads per day. So if they see our ad, that isn't like, they're just going to probably just forget it, right? So we need to consistently show up everywhere. It's called an omni-channel presence, right? So typically what we like to do is, once we collect a name, number, email, we like to have a little bit of a trifecta effect, right? So like kind of hitting people from 3 different angles, right? Number one, emails, super key, super important. And we'll go a little bit deeper into kind of like what Jason and the team is also kind of setting up for you guys there. But email is a good way to like nurture people. And on top of this, if you can add in one more mechanism, right? For example, a Facebook group or a YouTube channel. And once you get big enough, you can do both, right? For us, when we first started, it was just a Facebook group. So we had a Facebook group, we had email, and then now we have the phone number. So these are the 3 pieces that now we can show up. We can show up on their feed, we can show up in their emails, and we can show up on their text message, and we can call them, right? So that we have all these like assets that we have. So when we're able to package everything that that we talked about before, the what is it, why is it important, all your objection in advance, like all that stuff, all your material, you're able to kind of package that. Well, then now your delivery mechanisms are these 3-4 different platforms. Right. And you can literally you can even use like ChatGPT. If you ever want to like come up with some of this content, just keep it simple. You just feed it in and just get the content out. And now you can have a content calendar that you can just like, pace out all the time, like every single day. And if you don't want to do it yourself, no worries. Just hire a VA, like $100 a month, probably $200 a month. It's super, super part-time, and they can just post on your behalf. But what that does is, when a lead comes in, they're going to naturally just search you up. They're going to be like, oh, who's Janice? Who's Fatima, right? Who are these people, or what their company name is? Well, then now if you start to appear, it's a little bit of branding that you can start to implement, right? So that now, like, you have a Facebook group that you have all this whole community in of like-minded individuals as well. And now that whole community, you're the leader in it, right? So you're able to kind of position yourself as the authority figure. And in sales, if you are not in that leadership frame, you can't make someone like, they're not going to buy, basically, right? Like, you just have to establish yourself as that leader. And what better way to do it in your own private community, right? I think some of the people here also probably came from our Facebook group. We have about 6,700 members, and I make posts like every day or every other day. And again, it's just pure either value, it's handling objections in advance, or I'm just indoctrinating people on what we have, why is it important for them specifically, right? So those are the mechanisms. And then the same thing with the email. You can just copy and paste the email, the Facebook. In the text, you can just like, I wouldn't send a text every single day. Like that's a little too much. But, once or twice a week is a good cadence. And then just, you have the phone number, just call them, right? You do that enough. There's something called consistency bias, right? You do enough of these things where people, even if you're not good, right? And again, I would love for you guys to be really, really good at what you guys do, of course. But hypothetically speaking, even if you're not good, as long as you've showed up in front of their face dozens and dozens of times, well, then now naturally the human brain is just like, oh, whatever they have must be good, or whatever, they're offering must be right. Right. So it's like, that's just what it takes, because everybody else is competing for the same lead. They're all competing. It's kind of like a pond, right? And it's about giving yourself the most amount of leverage. Like, actually, what's funny is today my dad, he sent me, he was on a news site, I think it was like CNN or something. He sent me a picture and had my face on it. And I was like, I thought it was fake, or, I didn't know what it was. And it turns out that the team that we have, they're also running Google ads just for retargeting, right? So when someone has searched our brand name up, well, then now if they go on like, CNN or BBC or whatever, well, they're just going to see me there too, right? So what does that do? Consistency bias. Even for whatever reason, if, for example, they didn't like my face, they didn't like my voice, for whatever reason, right? Now, but internally, they're like, this guy must be like, he's probably doing something that's correct, right? So it's like omni-channel presence is everything. And yes, retargeting, super, super key. So there's two things. Number one is manual. And number two is automations, right? A lot of people, especially new, people who are kind of like stepping into the agency space, they're like, hey, just automate everything. Well, if it was that simple, then we'd all be billionaires, right? But there is a healthy level of automating things. And I think we're bringing something like that to you guys as well, especially when you're first starting off with ads, for example, guys. Even I remember when we first launched our ads, right? We're like, oh, this is the ad that's going to make us millions of dollars and we're good. No. It doesn't work that way, right? Like what you're doing with ads is you are just buying data. That's all, right? So when people say it doesn't work or it does work, well, both are incorrect. Because like all you're doing with ads, you're just purely buying data, right? It's kind of like, the best analogy I can give you guys is an airplane, autopilot. When the airplane's in the air, the pilot is not like, he just has it on autopilot and he's just relaxing, right? But the airplane is always, when it's on autopilot as well, because of the turbulence and stuff, is always going to be a couple degrees up or down or to the left or to the right. It's never 100% perfect. It never is. Like there's so many different fluctuations that kind of happen. So it's the same thing with ads, is like when you put in money, you're purely just buying data to see, this is the target that we want to hit. How far are we? Sometimes we're like completely off. And in that case, we're like, whoa. But a lot of times we're like, a lot of the metrics are somewhat good. And then this one metric's like really out of whack. And you just kind of like try to see where the drop off is, right? So Michael, for you specifically, I just like go a little bit deeper into like, why is that happening? Why are people not, kind of booking in? And just to what Nate's point is, if they're not booking in themselves, their desire and motivation factor may not necessarily be at the highest level. So, maybe the quality is a little bit of, a little bit interesting. So, and then there's ways to kind of fix that as well. So it's just being clear on, what the issue is and what the constraint is and just how to fix it from there. And they could be pockets too, right? And like I said, there's so many variables in ads where sometimes you go through a pocket where it's just like homeless Uber driver, like it's just broke people coming in, right? And then there's pockets where only sophisticated people and like high level, and then there's a mixture. It's just a bunch of things. You're dealing with an algorithm, right? It's not perfect and never is and never, will be, but it's like up to us again as business owners taking full responsibility of our business and just being like, all right, here's what I could do at this point. Here's what I can't, and just kind of making decisions from there. And you guys have every single thing when it comes to like all the skill set that you need to be able to run a multiple 6 or even 7-figure company that is inside the curriculum. And then number two, we have the client success managers. If you have Nate, Kyle, Sergio, all these guys have ran, really successful agencies. So those are kind of like the delivery mechanisms, right? So it's like, you can have the Facebook thing or YouTube. YouTube's a good one. Like for us, what we were seeing, I only have like 400 subscribers, but I mean, the amount of revenue we've done from there, it's probably close to $1 million just from, if I was just to attribute it to the YouTube channel. Well, the reason for that is because when someone sees our ad, they're going to naturally, again, skepticism, right? Like it is what it is. So they just search, they search my name up or they search the company up, and then they start seeing some of the content. They're like, oh, this is actually what I want. Or some people are like, oh, this is not what I want. Cool. It just kind of pushes them away and pulls the right people in. And also what it does is it makes me establish myself like I'm an authority figure, right? I'm a leader in this space. And same thing can go for you guys. Talking in front of the cameras in the beginning is a little weird, and I get it. I know how it feels in the beginning, but trust me, it is one of the biggest ROI things that you can do for your business, because we don't want to do it naturally. Your competition doesn't want to naturally do it as well. So like, how do we have the edge over them? Well, if we just do it, then we're not competing with them anymore, right? Like when someone searches your competitor up and they don't see anything, like they see zero social presence, they see just a company and they don't see a real human being, like with, a real human being behind it. Well, naturally the brain is going to be more attracted to someone who's a real human being. That's just the nature of it, right? I don't care how big of a level you get to, even if you're dealing with billion-dollar corporations, we're all humans at the end of the day, right? We all want to still resonate with the like-minded individuals. So it just gives you that natural level of just like, you're the leader. basically. And you kind of have to be, if you're charging high ticket, right, you have to establish yourself as the doctor. Like this, again, this is not just services. Imagine this. When a patient just walks in and the patient's like, hey, give me this medicine. Well, the doctor would just laugh. Like, what are you talking about? I have no clue what's wrong with you. I have no idea. I can't just prescribe you this, right? So that's the same thing when someone comes into the call, they're like, oh, I just want YouTube ads. Like, what are you talking about? It doesn't work that way, right? They need to come into our world. We are the doctors. We are the ones who will prescribe them the proper medication, in this case, the proper vehicle that they need to get to their goal, which is going to be the quickest, fastest, most efficient way for them to put in the least amount of inputs and to get them the maximum results and the maximum outputs on the back end. When we start coming in with that structure, now you can charge whatever. Like, you're not charging $250 for something. Like, you can charge $25,000, no problem. People will pay as long as, they see the value. So a couple other things, like we already covered the Facebook, that stuff. Reviews are good. Like, if you don't have social proof, it's not the end of the world. Living proof. How has this worked for you? And you guys can use some of our case studies as well, right? Like for some of the niches, we have some of the case studies. Just leverage our success. It's kind of like, we're the same team. So our fulfillment team is like your fulfillment team as well. So just leverage that, or just talk a little bit more about living proof of how this has impacted you, how has it impacted your life, or if you've done it for any friends or family, right? And if you have social proof, well, great. You can just bring on a client, you can do an interview with them, or you can just have them write a review, whatever the case is. But when someone searches you up, they should see some level of like good branding, decent stuff. And yeah, you'll get hate. That's just part of the game, right? You'll get the hate comments, and you'll get like people who are, giving you 1 stars or whatever for whatever reason. Misery loves company, but it's just part of the natural process. But the more that you can mitigate that, the better that you can possibly do for your agency. And one thing I would just want to mention here, the sale you're making is not about collecting a credit card. That's just one sale. Like, what we believe in is just like, you have to make a lot of, like I said in the beginning, it's like you're carrying these people on the back. Sometimes they'll drag their feet, and that's just part of it, right? You have to like just still take them to the goals that they want to get to. And, if you have to hold them accountable throughout the journey, you do. But what's more important is they need to get the results and the desired outcome that they came in for, right? So it's like, the way we view content as well is, we can collect credit card from anyone, but that's not the objective here. The objective is to get them the end result of what they're actually looking for. And the only way that's actually going to happen is if they know from the beginning of who we are, what we do, what we stand for, a little bit of our internals, right? And that's one thing I think Michael asked, like maybe a little bit of the content of what you can get for remarketing. So one thing that we're starting ourselves is this, we're just showcasing our internal team. We're showcasing who these people are. We're also showcasing some of the work we've done, right? Like we create some really amazing websites, amazing designs for some of our clients, specifically our higher level clients. We close their deals for them. So like we're showcasing where a client went from, like when they first came in. For example, we had a client like 5 months, she did 86K like per month. In 5 months, she went from 0 to 86K a month. So like we're just like taking some of her stuff and like, oh, this is where she came in. I remember the first text, she was like, oh, I don't even know what an agency is. Can you please explain what it is? So we like told her what it was. So like we're like going through that whole journey. What that does is once we put it out there, it's going to attract the people who will understand that this is what it takes to build a business. We don't want people who just come in and just think that it's going to be completely passive and they don't have to ever lift a finger and all that, right? There's some level of work that you still have to put in. So for us, whatever that is for you, you can put it for your content to be able to attract the right people as well, that once you do collect a credit card, they're able to put in the effort, they're able to put in the work of what's going to give them the results that they need at the end of the day. And always remember, Tim, always, there's going to be something wrong with your business. You will never be like, oh, everything's perfect. It doesn't work, or it doesn't work that way, right? There's always going to be this thing is off or that thing is off and we just fix it. We just put our head down and we just get to work. Become a learning machine. Like you guys literally have every single skill set that you need. But again, like one of the things is a lot of people may kind of just be stuck in their old habits, and it takes change to change. Always remember that, right? Like a lot of people are, kind of transitioning away from the 9 to 5 to like, having an agency. It's a big change. And as humans, we hate it. We absolutely get very, very comfortable in our own ways. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of like, okay, let me put myself a little bit into uncomfort. And once you continue to do that, it's just like hitting the gym, right? It's uncomfortable, but then you get the results and you're like, oh, small results, but then they stack up, right? That's the thing about it. The people who win really, really big in this space are the people who just stuck it out, right? Who've been here for years and years. And then they're like, whoa, right? But if you do everything that we ask you to, you'll get all the results that you want, if not beyond that. It's congruency, right? Whatever we say, we have to do. Like that's just a structure, even though it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is. But if we don't, then there's going to be the gap, and that gap, your clients will feel it, right? Like everything just kind of like your team will feel it once you guys have team members. So what we say, we have to have a very high say-do ratio, and we're not perfect. Like, we'll tell you, we make mistakes every single day, and that's okay. But as long as we have the right intentions, we show up, we do everything that we possibly can, that's all that matters, right? So it's not only one part of this thing is skill sets, strategies, tactics, which we give you, but the other part of this is also some of these soft skills that we need to possess. The big mistake that we make as agency owners is like, we think that we're working for them. No, you're working with them, right? You're not an employee of theirs. You're not like a contract, like you're their marketing partner. And as a partner, sometimes we need sales data. And I'll tell you guys this, there's a story, like this happened to us a few years ago. So we got this business, and I think it was through cold email at the time we were doing that, 2,000 leads. And we were high-fiving each other. Like, the internal team were like super happy. We're like, amazing. Next day we get fired. And we're like, what happened? Like, they just took away our retainer. And we're like, what happened? They're like, oh, you guys didn't perform. And we're like, we crushed, I don't know what to say. I don't have the words for it. Like, we just demolished, like, we crushed it, right? What happened? And they're like, oh, you guys didn't deliver any leads to us. We're like, what do you mean by that? So it turns out all the leads that we were generating them, it went to their spam folder. So like, their sales team doesn't even know it's happening. So like, we did all this heavy lifting, all this work we're putting in. And again, one thing is like, we like to underpromise and overdeliver, right? So which means that we're going to go above and beyond to make our clients very, very happy. And they just didn't get it. So that was on us though, because we didn't properly communicate, right? And that's another lesson, guys. Like, even though if it's technically not your fault, it is. Like, irrespective of whatever happens, as a business owner, we have to take full responsibility of our actions. And that day we realized communication is everything. So we need to over communicate rather than under communicate. So yeah, I would just ask them. I would just be like, hey guys, I want a little bit more clarity on X, Y, and Z, just so I can help you guys. Can you guys please provide me that? And just get it done. Like, they'll be very open to it because they view you as the consultant. They view you as, again, the leader. I always tell my team that there's no harm, there's no shame in not hitting your projections, but if you don't know why, and if you did hit your projections, why did you? Right? Like, the team knows me, right? I'm not going to I want to know why they hit it or why they didn't. Because like, then we can like attribute what the behaviors were, and we can just replicate that and just scale that, right? But if they don't even know why, that's a problem. Even if they're doing really well, I wouldn't just like, I would have a conversation with them like, guys, come on, like, run a solid business. It's their responsibility too. So like, everything we talked about, Daniel is the perfect example of literally what I just talked about. The first conversation we had was literally 2 years ago. I think it was a little over 2 years ago. But over time, he's been in our ecosystem, right? The emails, the Facebook like he's probably like, man, like, I really have to figure out a way to get in, right? And here you are, you just joined like what, a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, something like that. So, that's like, it just goes to show you that not everyone is going to come in day one, but what you're doing is you're building an ecosystem, you're building social equity is what we call it. And the more value that you give, even if they don't become a client, that's okay. But what about like the social equity and like maybe even the prayers, right? Like, that's something that I like to tally as well. Who knows, man? Someone, does a strategy, they land like, $50,000 client. It happens all the time where people, haven't even paid us a single penny, but just because of the free content that they got enough value, they're like landing clients, right? So what is the value on that? How can you be the top shelf choice, right? So like, like your messaging really matters. We've done a lot of clinics. I think there's specific training videos on that as well. Or what you can do is just like submit your kind of like the structure of the questions that you typically ask them, submit it to us, because there's probably if you're asking this question, there's probably a gap there that people aren't valuing and they aren't seeing you different than anyone else, right? But one like little quick thing that I'll just add is like, you want to be unique and different than anyone else, right? So no one is shooting videos, right? That's like, for me, I think a lot of people, even on this, our clients, they still get videos from me, right? Like, I run multiple companies, but I'm still, the sales team's like, hey, can you make a video for this person? And now when a prospect sees it, they're like, man, like, these guys actually really care. Like, they're actually really solid. So the same thing goes for you, right? Especially if you're 20, you have that young blood. I would just hustle, right? Like, you just have to hustle a little bit, probably more, and just make videos for each and every single lead in the beginning, right? You trust, like, their next message, they're just going to be completely different people. They're going to be like, whoa, this, and if you call them out, especially, and you make it a little bit custom, like, that is a big, big needle mover. You can get people to not only book in, but book in a way where when they show up to the call, that desire and motivation factor is really through the roof. So that's just what I would do. Awesome. Well, it was very nice chatting with you guys. Again, we're just a message away. Let us know how we can help, and I hope to see you guys soon. All right. Take care, everyone.